Welcome along, welcome back, welcome in. My name is Jess Izzat, and this is the Record Club, brought to you by Record Store Day, the official charts, and National Album Day, proudly in association with Bowers and Wilkins. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very excited to say that our guest this evening is Rachel Chinouriri to talk all about her new album, What a Devastating Turn of Events. If you're new here, we're going to be spending the next half an hour or so talking to Rachel about the brilliant new record. Then we're going to be putting forward some of your questions about the album for her to answer. So if you want to get involved, make sure to drop us a question in the comments section below. I'll be asking a selection of them in the second half of our chat. And on top of that, one lucky person who sends in a question today is going to be randomly selected to win a pair of Bowers and Wilkins PX7 Season 2 over-ear noise-cancelling headphones. Obviously, wicked prize. Don't miss out. Get your questions to us. If you haven't already got yourself a copy of the album, like I do, we thoroughly recommend you order one from your local record store once our chat with Rachel is over. But first, let's get straight to this week's Record Club. Welcome, Rachel Chinouriri, to the Record Club. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. How are you?
I'm good. I want to dive in, but we do actually like to start things here with a question from one of the many amazing independent record stores from across the UK. So this week's question comes from Vinyl Tap in Huddersfield. Do you know them?
No.
Well, they've got a big question for you. Yeah, you know them now. You're going to have to go visit them in Huddersfield next time you're on tour. They say, hi, Rachel, given that you started releasing music on streaming platforms back in 2018 and have since picked up loads on radio, TikTok, and supported some big names on tour, how does it feel to finally see your full-length studio album in physical form in record shops?
Well, it's interesting because I did cry when I first ever got a copy of my album on vinyl. And I've had a vinyl before, but I've only had one and it didn't feel the same at all. It was kind of, I guess this one I put all my creativity into it, even coming up with it. I was like, okay, well, the vinyl needs to open and do this, and it needs to be written on a plastic bag and this and X, Y, Z. And I think it just felt like I'd achieved something that I never thought I'd achieve when I was like 13. So it was quite, I'm going to say, monumental to my life and life-changing, and one of the most important things that could have happened to me because it's always been a dream.
Oh, emotional. Was it like when you first saw it, was it like a signing or something, or did you go in like as a visitor? Do you remember?
Well, the first time I kind of maybe-ish saw it, I think I was doing Sunday brunch and they had a fake version. And that made, don't know if I can say that, but I have now. That was like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to be real. And then I was in a cafe and it got brought to me and they were like, here's the samples. And then they passed it to me and then I just burst into tears. So it was, quite surreal. I was just in Thingy Cafe in Hackney. I was just crying with my
crying with the record in hand. Well, it's been a few weeks now, actually, since the release. How do you feel about it now? Because this doesn't often happen, but we've actually had a little chat about the album elsewhere on a different platform. And for me, it's quite nice to sort of like have a first chat and then like revisit. I've got loads of secondary questions. But how does it feel for you, like a couple of weeks later?
I feel almost a bit like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders when it first came out. But now a few weeks out, I kind of am like, I don't want to say I'm ready for the next album because I kind of am, but then I also know how much work I have to put into it. So I'm like, I need to make sure I'm really mentally ready for that. But it's kind of like the things I speak about on that album, I don't think I realized how much of a hold it had on me. And then now it's out and people message me saying this song has made me feel like this because I currently feel this way. I kind of feel grateful that I've been able to overcome all the battles from that project. And I don't think I realized how much I'd grown until now. So yeah, I guess once I let go of all these things, I kind of feel like I can help other people, but I don't think I've realized my growth until now.
Let's talk about some of those songs actually. Which tunes have had the biggest response?
I think I Hate Myself is one where, especially on the Outdoors tour, I did an Outdoors tour when the album came out, and the album came out like maybe 3 shows into the tour, and from that, the Friday, each meet and greet I did, someone would at least cry to me about I Hate Myself, and there were super young girls who were so beautiful, um, and I think that's the one which maybe unexpectedly hit me most because, saying I hate myself, I think in this day and age is such a common phrase. Like people are like, oh, I hate myself. Oh, I'm so silly. But I think it's actually, if you really deep it for why you're saying it, it's quite sad that a society has allowed girls to feel like that, or guys, or anyone feel that low of themselves. And I think seeing that on the Outsource tour really upset me, to be honest. It's hard because you're quite mechanical in a sense of you're trying to get through a lot of people, but I think those ones really hit me like the most. It was just really sad, but I'm glad they found a song which they feel like they can relate to.
Yeah, there's a couple on here that I would say if you look at the track listing, you can't tell what they're about before you've listened, but there are some which you can. And I think I Hate Myself is one of those like very direct, like a sort of message to people. What sparked that for you?
I was in a 5-year relationship. I've only had 2 boyfriends, and one's my current boyfriend, and he better stay my current boyfriend. I was like,
I'm
and
loving the content that you're putting out, guys.
I just see him. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do a little jump for you. But I had an ex who I was with for like 4.5 years, but officially ended like 5 years. When I was 17ish, maybe, or 18. And it was a weird and warped relationship because it was like he was lovely, but then he would say things like, I remember being with him and he said something like, when's the last time you went to the gym? Bearing in mind, I was a size 6 then, and I'm like a size 8 to 10 now. I was so small. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you're gaining weight. I'm sure you'd want me to tell you. And I was thinking I was a boss bitch. I was like, you're not going to tell me that. Da-da-da. Like I gave him the full rundown as soon as it happened. But weeks after that, I like realized I stopped eating. Then I started sending pictures of myself to my friends looking so like outrageously underweight, to be honest. And being like, oh guys, look, I've lost weight. And my friends were like, why are you doing that? And I think if I didn't have friends like that, I don't know where it could have gone to. And I luckily had my team in therapy and stuff like that happening at the same time. But it's lucky to be able to even start having those emotions and have people catch you out first, which it doesn't happen like that for a lot of people. So that's where that song kind of sparked from. And now I have a way healthier relationship with myself, food, my body, who I am, and stuff like that.
It's also amazing that you can just talk about it so frankly like that as well. Like, I think you share a lot of yourself online and with your fans, and I feel like that's kind of what's resonating. You're just being yourself, but it's also nice that it feels like it's come from a place of like you're not over it, but like I don't know, you've had some catharsis from it.
I think it kind of it's something which will always stick with me, but I feel like it's beautiful to start somewhere in my life, and when my life ends at some point, there'll be so many different parts of me which have made me into a stronger person. So I think that's where I take the beauty of such sad things that can happen.
I think Dumb Bitch Juice on the other end of the spectrum is another song where like you can sort of tell what it's gonna be about, and I'm just obsessed with that. Where did this phrase come from? Is it kind of sounds like something that might have happened in a voice note or something?
Yeah, me and my friend May Muller were both in the industry. We both kind of started doing things similar time. Both had album. Her one's last year, mine's this year. So we've kind of gone along the path in similar sort-ish ways. And me and her ended up partying in the same like era of our lives, which involved lots of going out and double tequila shots. And
I think I remember this, by the way, because you had a girl gang which I wanted to be a part of so badly. I was like, these girls, come on.
I love those girlies. I've been a hermit, so I need to go and see them again. But I message them every now and then. But me and May, terrible. Like, we'd go out, party, all these things. But then also, our dating decisions were also just as terrible. And sometimes I would it hit a point where I would go to May or go to like my friends Julie and Janae and talk about these really toxic guys who had done horrific things, like just the worst kind of people ever. And I would be like, how are they doing this to me? And then a week later, I'll be like, I kissed them. And my friends are like, why did you do that? And now I'm like, it's because I was drinking dumb bitch juice. And it's like, that was just an era of my time maybe I just needed before I found my lovely boyfriend now. But I was like, yeah, dumb bitch juice is something which can be fun for a little bit. Wouldn't recommend though, because it never ends well.
And obviously, you mentioned May Miller. She makes a cameo on the album. Also, we know that Florence Pugh, an appearance in the visuals. But we have to talk about, I know that we've spoken about it before, but I just have to ask you again about the importance of having someone who's just such an iconic, recognizable Black female voice on this record.
Yeah.
It's at the halfway point. Immediately, you just know who it is because she's been like, she is a legend of our time, especially now kind of leaving the realms of radio recently. I don't know if she'll be back. I hope she'll be back, but she's doing bigger and better things now. Clara Amfo's on the album.
I will speak about that woman's praises for as long as I live. I think she is not just iconic, legendary, and has an essence of class. And that's very rare to say for someone who is that young. It's not like she's like in her 70s and you're like, what a legend. I think she's a legend like now. I think her attitudes and her work ethic and the way she is someone who I would like aspire to be like if I was in her field or if anything. But I think it's her, the way she's navigated, maybe not just the industry, but music and radio and I don't know, her levels of passion and understanding and support of all people, but also Black women in the industry. Like sometimes I would be scared to go to the radio and speak about being Black in indie, but she'll be like, so let's talk about being Black in indie. And I'm like, on just the national radio, like, oh, we've got to do this. She'll do it anyway. So I'm grateful that she made me feel brave enough to speak about these things more openly and with no shame.
Yeah, I think it's the art of being like someone paving the way for Black women, just like Black and women. It's like two things, but also she's, like you said, just such a legend and managed to platform these things and make it so that you're able to communicate what you're feeling and what you're thinking effectively. So, how did you approach her for this? Did you drop her a DM for it?
I did drop her a DM, and I know she's not at the radio anymore, but I dropped her a DM and I was just like, this is a vision I had because for the album, I wanted it to be like a soundscape of what it's like growing up in the UK. And I think radio played and still does play a massive part. So I was just like, who could I get? And I was like, there would be no better person than Clara Ampho. So I asked her and she was like, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it. Then a random day, months later, she was like, I'm going to do it. And I was like, okay. I found out she was leaving the radio and I was like, oh, okay, yep, that's fine. And I was like, let's do it now. And she did
Honestly, so amazing. I feel like radio is such a good timestamp because people were on air for such a long time, or they soundtrack like an era of your life. And so I think much like an album is a bit of a timestamp, it's like a capsule which you can revisit. That's definitely going to contribute to it.
You hear the dog that's barking on the balcony over here?
Yeah, but we've had dogs on the record club before, so it's okay.
Let me close this window. I hope that's not coming through. It's like a dog which kind of has like no bark, so it's like a really awkward sound.
Oh, poor little doggy. Right, so thematically on this album, there's some pretty difficult songs in here. I remember listening to one and didn't realize how like personally connected it was to you, but you performed it recently and you introduced it, and I think I just sobbed through the whole thing. The title track, So What a Devastating Turn of Events, is about someone you're related to, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but
yeah,
when it comes to a song like that, is it one that sort of pours out of you, or did it take like a while to craft it in the way that you wanted?
I think it kind of poured out of me in a sense of I have a lot of family in Zimbabwe, but I'm one of the only ones born in the UK from my family and cousins and stuff like that. And there's my dad's relatives. They all live in Zimbabwe. My mum's side all live here. So there are cousins who I've just never met. And my siblings grew up with one who passed. She had committed suicide. So when that happened, I remember my whole family, very understandably, were so upset. No one understood how or why. And I remember hearing the story about what was happening. And I think there was so much focus on maybe religious aspects or things to me that didn't really matter. I was like, in the grand scheme of what has happened, and now we have the full story of her life because she's passed. I was kind of like, imagine how she felt deep down versus how other people were feeling around her who maybe had caused her to feel the way she did. So I wanted to write a song about the story because I think with the steps in the story, when it's not in a country like Zimbabwe, I think when it's here, to me, what happened to her should have never, even 5% of it should have even led to how stressed out she was about that. But based on where you live can have that effect, or based on the religion or family or views and opinions can make you feel like that sometimes, which is really unfair. So I guess I just wanted to lay out her story and kind of make people realize that that level of stress and judgment is capable in every single person, and every person, not every single person, but I've felt like that before. And now I'm out so far away from that because of the growth I've been allowed to have by the access I have from the country I live in. It was quite scary to see how close many people can get to that feeling and how very small misses of signs or understanding of people can lead to things like that happening. And I think so many small signs were missed and no one knew that that was possible. Maybe in my family didn't know that was possible, and it was so tragic. And I was just kind of like, I've experienced some of the things that she's gone through and know exactly how she felt, but I was lucky enough to have people to help me. And she wasn't lucky enough to have people to help her. So, yeah, I think it was just important to tell the story. And I like that so far, no one has judged things in the story like the way I see the internet judge things about women's choices with their own bodies, and motherhood, and, being, just sexually free, or how you dress or what you look like, or opinions. Currently everyone listens to the story and they're like, oh wow, that is really sad, versus being like, well, she shouldn't have done this, she shouldn't have done that, which is what I wanted. So I think yeah, it's what the story I think has been told well. And I hope my family think that. I think they do think that, but
Yeah, I think storytelling is your forte. I think lyrically, like, this album is insane, and that's definitely one that's just like, oh, when I heard it live again, I was like, okay, this is too much for me. Speaking of family, I know I've got one more question, or one more, I guess, thing I want to ask about before we head to your questions. Obviously, get them in the comments. We'll be getting to them after this. So speaking of family, is this your family?
yeah.
And can you talk to me, because this is on the inside sleeve of the album. Everyone go get your own copy. Yeah, talk to me about this photo and why it made the inside sleeve.
My mum, when she grew up, she has no pictures probably from before she was like 21, and neither does my dad, because they had a house fire and lost all their pictures before I was born. So my mum, in my house, there are just stacks and stacks and stacks of disposable pictures. And I remember the first day I ever got them, there was pictures, so many pictures like these, because my mum is just a woman who's just like, stand at this lamppost, take a picture, stand here, take. And I found this one because I think it was in a house before I moved to my family home when I was 4 until I was 18. But this house, I think, was my birthday. No, my mum's birthday. I'm on her lap. My mum sat there. My brother, I only have one brother. He's on the left. And then, yes. And then on the right is one of my sisters. And behind the keyring is my sister, Christabel. And she's very upset that her face got covered by the keyring. She's complained. And at the bottom is my best friend, who me and her were the same age growing up. And I just thought it just kind of captivates just how simple life is. Like, that is a group of people who have no access to the internet, no phones, don't know what's going on in the world, and we're just like just living and existing. And I just kind of miss that and love that, and I'm grateful that I managed to have that. So yeah, I put it on my album artwork.
It's crazy how looking at a disposable, it's like a captured like moment and memory, and there's like so much to it. Whereas now we're just flicking away on our phones. I wonder if we'll ever look back in the same way
You
at
know what my
ours.
issue is with that, right? I think back in the day, pictures almost seemed cooler, or people maybe came across, I don't want to say more beautiful in a sense of like features, but pictures almost look more beautiful when they're like kind of a bit like, because you can tell they are so captured in the moment. But now it's like as soon as the camera comes out, we all do a little bit like or a little, or, a little or something.
Me
And
and
it's
you are guilty of one of those ones.
extremely guilty of every time I see a camera, even if I know it's meant to be a candid, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, just the essence of that being just captured and people just kind of moving on. It's just kind of beautiful because it is really capturing just time for what it is.
Less curated, wasn't it, back in the day? Now we know our angles.
Yeah.
Right, let's get some questions. Chloe on the Record Club's Twitter says, you said you've grown a lot since writing the album. Are any of the tracks now hard to sing live because there is a disconnect?
I'd say no. I'm someone who really embraces everything that I've done, whether it's good or bad, or if it's made me feel terrible or made me feel good. I will hold down any feeling that I have because I'm kind of like, I'm responsible for my choices, I'm responsible for my decisions. And even in times of sadness, even like, for example, songs like I Hate Myself, even though it kind of didn't feel like my fault, I am responsible for allowing myself to do that to myself, and I should never allow anyone to let me want to do that to myself. And I like that it's almost a reminder to never do that to myself. And I think singing it really reminds me of that, because sometimes on some days I will forget, or some days I don't feel strong enough to kind of continue being a bad gal. You know what I mean? So I think I feel more empowered the more and more I sing them. It's usually harder the first time, but after the first time, I'm grand.
Craig on Record Store Days Facebook says, how did you feel getting your debut album in the UK top 20?
Craig, God, I was terrified because I've never charted before. I've never been one of those artists who's like charted like officially in like a thing where the world will be like, that's the thing you did. And I was hoping to at least chart, but then when when my team were like, we could be in the top 20, I was like, oh really? And I worked endlessly. Like I was just everywhere I could go. I was like, albums for sale, albums for sale. I cried my eyes out halfway through when I think I dipped below and I didn't think I was going to get it. And I cried my eyes out and I was like, I'm not going to get it. And once I got it, I just think, I mean, I slept for a week, but I kind of sat there like, wow, what the hell? I've managed to achieve a top 20 album for my first album. I'm like,
I'm sorry, I can't imagine the stress, like sort of knowing where you're at, like halfway through. I'd just be like, oh God.
it's like sometimes it can be like you'll be, I don't know, number 5 after like one day. Then you check again, it'll be like, cool, you're like down in the 30s. And it's like, what? You're like, oh. And it's like, because not everything's come in. So you're just like, how is this happening? So you literally never actually truly know. And just terrifying. And that level of stress, I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do. But I'm very proud that my fan base and the public really helped me achieve that. Like it was honestly heartwarming.
We also have Liam on Record Store Days Twitter saying, what song on the album was the most therapeutic to write?
Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden, 100%. I was in the countryside. I'd finished my big LA trip where I had my tantrum in the hills. Garden of Eden is one of the last-ish songs that I'd made. But we were just in the countryside. We were all drinking cups of tea. I was with 2 people from America who'd never been to the countryside, and I'd told them in LA while I was there, I'd love you to see the countryside. And seeing people see English countryside for the first time is so exciting. I don't know why. And Glenn, friend, was just so excited, and it was just like so calm and peaceful. And we were like, we could do whatever we want, and we just started like humming and playing this thing, and we're just kind of like, nothing matters. There's no point in anything, and we got the Garden of Eden, and I just love how every time I listen to it, it just reminds me of that room.
It is funny. I think we take it for granted a little bit. Like my Malaysian family, when they come over and see in the countryside, they're like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, enjoy. Who else do we have? Becca on the Record Club's Facebook says, "Hi Rachel, what was your go-to Dumby juice?" I love the censoring. "It was so lovely to meet you in Southampton at Vanilla."
Well, it was lovely to meet you too, Becca. My go-to DBJ, I'll say my two different versions. One of them, I'll say alcoholic and non-alcoholic. My non-alcoholic would be apple, strawberry, and banana with ginger, because for some reason back then I would drink it like I'm gonna be a healthy girl, slay, and then because I felt so healthy, I'd just then go out and eat stupid stuff and then find whoever to and be like, hey, you're cute. So that was one DBJ. That was my sober DBJ. My other DBJ is Craig David shots, which is double tequila shot, double pineapple juice, and I'll just do my little tequila shots. And
I've actually seen a video of Craig David himself telling us how you're meant to do those, and you're meant to do a bit of pineapple, a bit of the tequila shot, and then another bit of pineapple. Meant to be sandwiched.
I was doing it wrong. I was telling everyone, breathe in, hold your breath, do the shot of tequila, do the pineapple, and then breathe out.
Well, that is dumb bee juice.
That is BJ.
Okay, one more. Jasmine on the Record Club's Facebook is asking, "Hey Rachel, have you worked out the set list for tour? If so, what song is definitely going to be on it?"
I have not. But I know, we definitely know Never Need Me, All I Ever Asked, and So My Darling will be on there. But one which I think people might not expect could be something like either Garden of Eden or Robbed.
Oh, I love Robbed.
I do love Robbed.
I think it's got some of my best one-liners, favorite one-liners in there. Right, well, I could chat to you forever, but apparently we're not allowed to. So that is all we have time for today. Thank you, Rachel, so much for joining us. Make sure to a copy of, here we go, What a Devastating Turn of Events, physical copy. Now that this episode is over, pick one up from your local record store. I'm also excited to announce that the winner of this week's Bowes & Wilkins wireless headphones prize is Becca on the Record Club's Facebook page. Please slide into the Record Club's DMs. We'll get those headphones to you. Obviously, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your questions. All previous episodes are available to watch back on YouTube or listen back on Spotify. I'll see you for the next episode of the Record Club. Rachel Chinouriri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Bye.